Hey guys, Navanat on No Limit Hold'em. I'm going to do something very different today. I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about the journey that I've been on, and I think people that have worked with me, students of present and not too distant past, probably are curious about where I'm at with all of this. So it may come as no surprise to any of you that there is a large degree of overlap between people that try to play their best game of poker and become as good as they possibly can, and Zen, meditation, and mindfulness. So, first of all, why? Where is this connection? And I understand if you click it off. If you click out right now, if you turn the video off right now, I won't take that personally. This is just for the minority of you that might be interested in all of this. I will say I think it can help you become a better poker player and a better human. So why poker? Well, when we're talking about Zen and mindfulness and kind of learning who you are and how to think more clearly, less dualistically, I think there's lots of vehicles that you can take. There's lots of paths. There's lots of there's the book Zen and the Art of Archery. Right, that was a book recommended to me by a poker player, and it was recommended to him at the end of a poker lecture with a very famous poker player that we won't talk about because his name has become a little tainted, Howard Lederer. But like many of you and many people that practice meditation, I was introduced really to meditation and Zen and mindfulness through poker. I mean, first in the martial arts. I kind of grew up in the martial arts, but interestingly, it was never as stressed in the martial. I didn't get as into it through the martial arts as I did through poker. And I do think there's a connection. You can take any practice, anything that you want to do well, and that you want to do in a mindful kind of meditative way. You can use a lot of different things as a vehicle to self-discovery, a vehicle to becoming mindful. Anything that's, well, I mean, anything that can hold your attention, I think would be a good way to say it. But I think poker in particular is a really good vehicle for connecting to this, I don't want to say Buddhist idea because I think that has like religious connotations I'd like to avoid. But I mean, calling mindfulness a Buddhist thing, I think is kind of like calling science a Christian thing, because most of our like good, well, how do I want to say this? Most of the big advances in physics have come from people that were mostly Christian. That doesn't mean that physics is a Christian endeavor. And I think the same is true of meditation and mindfulness. It was just because it was figured out or really, I don't know if perfected is the right way, just because it was predominantly brought to the world through people who were Buddhists doesn't mean that it is only a Buddhist thing. I mean, Zen, mindfulness meditation, even some of the strictly Buddhist meditations, they don't require you to believe in the Buddha as a, I don't know, like supernatural being. Okay, so anyway, the idea of poker and mindfulness, I think, it's a good idea. There's a lot of synergy going on here. Anybody who's, well, I was going to say anybody who's never been on tilt, but I'll say anyone who's never felt tilt has probably never played long hours or long sessions, or has never ran bad for any extended period of time, or has some kind of maybe natural gift for mindfulness, or some sort of a mental disability, really, like Asperger's or something maybe. Not that that's a disability, but there's something not standard about a person's mind if they can play poker seriously for any length of time and never feel, I don't know, what it's like to lose control of their self, I guess. Poker has this way of finding your weaknesses and exposing them, like few things that I've ever done. I think the martial arts is very similar in that way, but so many of us are not. Well, I mean, I'm 40 years old, so I'm not going to be going to fight in the local cage matches anytime soon. I'm not going to be training in a camp and testing myself day in and day out until I break or don't break. But and there's lots of people that just aren't going to go down that path at all. But poker is not so dissimilar from that path. If you have a weakness for mathematics, poker is going to beat you up in that exact area. If you don't like to listen to instruction, poker's gonna show you that. It's gonna show everybody else that. Then you're gonna have to look at it and accept it and work through it, or not. If you have a hard time controlling your anger, poker is going to just pound on that and pound on it and pound on it until it either kind of rubs the rough edges smooth, or until you really intentionally figure out how to stop that from happening, or you're just going to break, you're going to quit, or you're just going to keep losing. So I think that because there's all these, in life in general, we do have trials, and there's hard things to deal with, and there's death of family members, and hard jobs, and hard days at the office, and fights with your spouse or significant other, fights with the kids. All of these things happen, but they don't happen in the rapid succession that they happen when you're playing like no limit hold'em for decent stakes. There's so much like happiness and then sadness, and it's like it's the least even keeled thing that I can think to do. It's like there's so much luck and bad luck and good luck, and it can seem so brutal and unfair, and it's so difficult to study, and it's difficult to learn, and you're gonna, if you have insecurities and self-doubt, the first time you start running bad, you're gonna just be haunted by it. It's gonna be like, oh my God, am I smart enough? Am I good enough? Am I composed enough? Maybe this isn't for me. It's just whatever it is that you need to work on as a person. Poker's gonna help you find that, with possible exceptions of like physical things, but mental, dare I say, spiritual and emotional things. If you've got weaknesses, poker's going to bring them to the surface, where they either do you in as a poker player and cost you lots of money, or they help you to see the things that you need to transcend, and then you'll either transcend them, you'll quit playing poker, or you'll lose money. And it won't be much fun in the process if you're constantly making excuses or covering up or not looking honestly at the weaknesses of your own being. So I think the trials of anything difficult, anything worth doing, can be a potential vehicle for enlightenment or self-actualization. I think poker is just a little bit better a vehicle than most, and I think that there's a synergy between the two, because in the same way that playing poker turns you into, or can have the potential to show you your weaknesses and help you to fix yourself and become a better person, well, becoming a more actualized person is going to make you a better poker player. I mean, it's like you can use mindfulness to become better at poker, and you can use poker to become better at mindfulness. And it's like that's what synergy means, right? I mean, you can't play really good poker if you're worried about the hand that you lost, an hour ago. You're at a poker tournament and you did something dumb and you're beating yourself up for it, or you got unlucky and you're feeling sorry for yourself, or you know that the last couple times you busted in tournaments at the bubble, and here comes the bubble, and you just know you're going to lose this time on the bubble, or you're just so afraid of it. You can't be that clouded and be effective. So I think for a lot of people, poker is the first thing they do that shows them their problems, their weaknesses, their limitations. and at the same time it offers something of a way forward. And even if you can't find it yourself, there's people in the poker community that can help you to find it. So I think when it comes right down to it, poker and mindfulness are just really good mutually. They're, yeah, synergistic. And I don't know if the paradox of this would be blatantly obvious to somebody who has not seen it for themselves, but here's one of the interesting things that happens when you play poker. I was going to make this video, I was going to call this at first, What Psilocybin Taught Me About Poker. Because there's a story that I'll tell about someone I know. Someone I met, is that how you say it? Swim. Yeah, so someone I met who played poker. He had a couple of very transcendental, mystical-like experiences with magic mushrooms, psilocybin mushrooms. And he started wondering, because it seemed so real, that there was something going on there. Beyond just, well, it seems like there's a connection and an intuition and a recognition in other people that they are not different from you. And when you have that kind of a recognition that we're kind of all the same person, in a manner of speaking, or at least the consciousness is all the same consciousness, it feels like that, right? Psilocybin can make it feel like that from what I've heard. So this person was a pretty serious poker player, even more serious than I am now, we'll say, and thought, I wonder if this could be used as a tool to play better poker. And so let's just call this person me, just for the sake of just to make it easier to talk. So I had some of my friends, a couple of them were also very into poker, and we'd all kind of had this same, I don't know, quasi-mystical experience from psilocybin that made us wonder if we weren't actually tapping into something that was useful, that could be exploited, or we'll just say utilized in a way that maybe it wasn't intended, in order to get an edge. Because it can seem very much like all the normal curtains are flung open and you can just see each other more clearly. There's empathy to the point that it almost feels like, and it not like a spooky woohoo psychic connection. It's not that as much as it's just an understanding that the person you're looking at root is the same as you. And so if you can just see that, then maybe you can see what their real motivations, their real intentions, their real thoughts might be based on their actions, based on the assumption that they are you. It's like, it doesn't really make sense to call it psychic phenomenon or anything like that, because it doesn't feel that way. It's more like, you wouldn't look in the mirror and say, boy, I know what that reflection is going to do. I bet he's going to raise his right hand right now. And then watch him raise his right hand and think, oh, wow, I'm psychic. That's a psychic thing. It's more like that. It's more like that. So anyway, we'll call us we. Had a poker tournament set up. We were even playing for enough money to make it, I don't know, as close to a real thing as possible. And we dosed the psilocybin. And wanted to see what this would do for our ability to know what each other were actually trying to do. Like reads, we'll say. So what happened? Well, it seemed like it was working, but about the time it seemed like it was working, all interest in something as mundane as poker just vanished. We had bigger fish to fry. It's like, could not care less about poker, and couldn't see that it would make any sense to do something like that, because even the idea that, even if we don't care now, we will care later, even that seemed like nonsense. Not that I didn't think that I would care, just that I knew that I ought not care, that it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. So in that same way, mindfulness, although it takes a longer time, and it's more of it requires a little bit more effort and discipline, it can bring you into that same state where you realize that you don't want to or need to defeat somebody, and you don't have like a desire to steal their money. You don't have a desire to like beat them, to have your, like, you know, poker for a lot of people is an ego expression, right? It's like, I'm going to use my brain to fight your brain, and my brain's going to win because I deserve to, and I'm better than, smarter than, harder working, different from, separate from this person who I'm trying to beat. So once you see through that illusion, can you ever really care about it again? Well, this is something you'd have to experience to understand, but I'll say you can go through a stage like that. I've been through a stage like that where it's like, I don't want to take this guy's money. I don't care if I can beat him at poker. It's not important to me anymore. But you can get past that too, into the situation where it's like it transcends the dualistic him and me, self and other nature, but it doesn't, it makes things fun, because what it is, it's the recognition. So the first part is like, I want to beat this person because they're different than me, and I want to be better than them, and maybe I'm insecure and I want to prove how smart I am. Maybe I can't do physical things as well as other people, so I want to prove my self-worth. Maybe I just enjoy taking money from people. Maybe I laugh about it. These dummies, look how stupid they are. I'm going to take their chips. Whatever it is, it's usually an ugly thing if you really look closely at it. So once you have that recognition and realization, it definitely could be the case, and was for me, that you can lose interest. However, once you go past that, you come to this point where it's just a game. And I don't just mean poker, I mean it's all just a game. And so why not play this game within a game? It's interesting, and the results don't matter. And you're not doing it out of any sense of anger or hatred or self-consciousness or desire or even attachment. You're just doing it because you're playing. You know, it's a fun thing. And when you get to that point, just by the way, for what it's worth, and it's worth a lot, there is no tilt there. Tilt is it's a non sequitur. It's a non-starter. It doesn't even make sense. There is nothing to be upset by. It's just a game. And you can take that, if you learn that lesson in poker, you can apply that to life. And if you learn that lesson off the felt in life, you can apply it to poker. Now, this isn't where I live. I don't live in this state of mind all the time. But I'm getting closer every day. I'm getting closer most days. Okay, so I don't claim to be some kind of a guru. I don't claim to be an authority on mindfulness or transcendence. And I was very reluctant for a long time to do a video like this, even though my own students had told me that they would like to see something like this come from me, or that it should be, that I could do it tactfully and not come off the wrong way with it. I still was a little bit, I didn't feel comfortable with that. But I do now. Because I have had, I'm still not a guru, I'm still not some transcendent awakened being, but I've seen it, you know, I've tasted enough of it to know that it's a thing that can be done. And if I turn one person onto that path through this, what a gift I'm giving them, right? So hopefully it doesn't sound egoic. I'm not in my ego. I mean, I don't think I am. I feel pretty clear and mindful at present. Okay, so the path, as best I can tell, as best I've been able to sort it out, or the way it happened for me, there were levels or stages of realizations. The first realization was, I'm not my ego. I have an ego. What you have, you can't be. A knife can't cut itself, right? You cannot sharpen a knife. You can't get a knife so sharp that it'll cut itself. So if you have an ego, well, who has an ego? So if I say Donovan has an ego, then there's separation between ego and Donovan. So that was the first step, was seeing the ego as separate from me. Seeing the ego as a thing that I had, not a thing that I was. And once you get that space in between the ego and yourself, the ego has less control over you. And unless you kind of stop being mindful, unless you slip out of it, you can get to spots where your ego just doesn't control at all. And then somewhere in between number 1 and number 2 came the realization that I'm not a mind. I know that's how really, I think maybe almost everybody thinks of themselves as a mind. It's like, you know, you have a body, but I think most people think they are their mind. And, you know, there's this saying, or this koan, or, not koan, but there's this thing that is said, that the mind makes a wonderful servant and a terrible master. And the first time I heard that, it didn't make any sense to me. Because I'm thinking, who would this thing be serving? You know, I thought I was a mind. I kind of had this, even though I knew that there was no place in my brain for an ego or a central meaner, or a little homunculus to be sitting, looking out my eyes, with their ear, or, well, my ears plugged into Donovan's ears, the Cartesian theater, even though I knew intellectually that there was no center called self. There was no central meaner, there was no author of thoughts, there was no person that could have free will. And in fact, there's not even a person to not have free will. I think that arguing about whether free will exists or not is like arguing over the color of Santa Claus's hair. It's a non sequitur. It doesn't mean anything. So anyway, I did, in between step 1 and step 2, I separated from my mind. I thought, that's not me. I can see that. I can observe my mind. And people say, like, yeah, well, that's called self-awareness. Well, I'm not going to go into that right now, but I think it's been mathematically proven, although misunderstood even by the person who proved it, that self-reference doesn't make sense. You can't, like, looking for the time in the future when robots and computers will be self-aware, like humans are, non sequitur. It's because we are not self-aware. It's like if you're looking for yourself, you can't be yourself, right? I mean, who would be looking and who would be hiding? It's like if you're looking for yourself, if you're trying to reflect on yourself to become self-aware, to me that's like, and this is my own, well, this is how I realized it, I think. Looking for the self is a great meditation. And this, I mean, man, do that. Like, just sit in silence and just look for the thing that's looking. And when you don't find it, something weird happens, right? You realize that it's like if you were looking in a dark house, right? And you have a flashlight, and you can only see where you point the flashlight. So wherever you point the flashlight, that's the only part that's illuminated, that's the only part you can see. And you're walking around all night looking in this house, and what are you looking for? You're looking for you. And for some reason you can't find you. Everywhere you turn, you aren't there. So you look for yourself, and all you find is the world. All you find are your thoughts. You don't find yourself. Because if you could, then it would be an object in consciousness. And if it's an object in consciousness, there must be a consciousness there for it to be an object in. So there's separation there. So when you realize that you don't, when you stop identifying with ego, that's a step in the right direction. Then stop identifying with mind. And for me, it happened very quickly from there to stop identifying as a person. There's problems with the language. Language makes some assumptions. So it's really difficult to talk about these things very clearly. But for me, recognition that I was not a mind wasn't something I was, it was something I had. And realizing that, you know, for my mother, I turned her onto this idea, and I think she got a hold of this when she realized that she had many persona. Like, and you might feel the same way, that you're a different person at work, a different person at school, a different person at home, a different person with your family, a different person with different friend groups that you might hang out with. You act like a totally different person, but you still have the idea that you are really some person. And that idea can fall away very quickly once you realize that there's one thing that goes, that's always there. Whenever you're playing these different parts, these different persons, you can be aware that there is one thing that stays there, that never changes. Just the consciousness, the awareness is still there, right? The I. You know, who told you your name was I? We all call ourselves the same thing, right? We say I am. Yeah, we do that, right? Nobody told you that I am, right? They told you your name was something. They said their name was I. So, sorry about that. Yeah, so going a little bit more metaphysical than I planned on getting. Sorry about that. But yeah, the self can, this is the inquiry. This is the thing you ask yourself. Just say, well, let me ask you right now. What color are you? And if you tell me pink or brown or something like that, it's like, no, I'm not talking about your body. What color are you that has the body? What color is the thing that hears my voice? There's no color. Okay, well, how big is it? How big are you? This thing that hears my voice, the consciousness, what size is it? What's its shape? What's its spatial dimensions? How much do you weigh? The you that hears my voice. It doesn't have those attributes. Consciousness doesn't have those attributes. So let me ask you this, and I'm going to leave you with this. What do you call something that has no color, no mass, no shape, no size, doesn't begin, doesn't end, it's not located in space, and it's not located in time? What do you call something that has no attributes? What do you call that? What do you call something that does not exist in space and time? What do you call it? Till next time, guys, I hope this helps. If you like this sort of video, let me know. Maybe we'll do more like it. If you're completely put off and ready to unsubscribe, well, that actually makes me feel a little bit sorry for you, you know, like, there is something here. Guys, there is something here. Or nothing. Or something. Yeah. Well, I hope that touched somebody. And if it made a difference to a person, well, what a difference that is, right? Till next time, guys. Namaste.